Welcome to the Israel Ramos podcast show, where I will bring up topics that I feel that is important in today's world and try to give you the best information to the best of my ability to make a difference in this troubled world that we live in. And today I have Tom Pagano, who's going to discuss this issue with me. And today I'm going to talk about how to get the bus drivers and truck drivers, how to stop them from going too fast to prevent people from getting killed out there by truckers or bus drivers who are driving very aggressively. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thank you, Israel, for having me on your show. It's a very good topic. For one, I was in a 5-car accident when I was 21, and I was going to work. I had the keys to my job, and I had to let the employees go into the building. So I was on my way to work, and a woman was driving aggressively, and we got all into a 5-car accident. Luckily, nobody was gravely harmed. And it made me think from then on there that I should drive cautiously, and I was always a safe driver. But I noticed that lately there are a lot of drivers who drive recklessly, and that bothers me a great deal. Trucks and buses. Mainly, I now drive. I now ride a bicycle. I no longer drive, but I think about how drivers can not respect people like myself who ride a bike. I live in Brooklyn, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I drive into Manhattan. I drive over the Brooklyn Bridge sometimes, and a vehicle is about a few thousand pounds, and a bicycle is, I don't know, bicycle's probably about 30 pounds, and it's just, I don't know why drivers are not a little more appreciative that people ride their bicycles, because if we cut down on traffic, a lot of traffic, and there's less traffic because people ride bicycles.
Yeah, it's true that a lot of drivers out there, including cars, are very aggressive. It's not the machine; it's the person inside the cars that are doing that. Well, the one thing I want to address because this topic is about how can we how can we stop buses and truckers from going too fast on the highways and interstates? Well, I've been a trucker for over 25 years, and this is why I also want to bring this up. Every time I have over 2 million miles that I've driven. I was also a New York City yellow cab driver. And the one thing I notice about, I'm not saying all the truckers or bus drivers, a bus can go 80 miles or more, even also a truck driver. And the problem that I have, not with all of them, because you got some good bus drivers out there, right, and truck drivers.
Right.
I'm not blaming all of them, but it's enough bus drivers and truck drivers out there that I see every day when I'm out there on those highways. Mm-hmm. They'll tailgating four-wheelers, cars, and that's horrible, because even in bad weather, when it's snowing, raining, a lot of people do not slow down. And the reason, now I know that there's a lot of cars out there that are very aggressive also, but the reason I want to address more today the bus drivers and truck drivers is because they are carrying a lot of weight. And they could range up to 70,000 pounds if they're fully loaded.
Wow, that's a lot of weight.
And the problem is, if they hit a person, they're going to kill them. And a lot of times people are driving with little children and elderly people in the cars. And it is not fair that they jeopardize their life. So the way, we have to try to make these people accountable for what they do. And the way to stop bus drivers and truck drivers from driving too fast is by contacting Washington and let them know to pass the law to govern the engines. Now, for those people who never heard of this, a bus or a truck could go into the mechanic, and the mechanic does something to the engine that will govern it, which will only allow them to go a certain speed. Like, I believe that the buses and truck drivers should only be allowed to go 65 miles an hour. Why? To save lives. I don't believe a bus driver or a truck driver has no business going faster than that. Right. See, if a bus is governed at 65, that's all he can do. He will not be able to catch up to another bus driver, another truck driver. And a lot of times, bus drivers and truck drivers are trying to pass each other. But if a bus driver or a truck driver if the engines are governed, they can no longer pass each other. If a truck left from point A to point B 15 minutes ago at 5 o'clock, the next truck driver that left from point A to point B will not be able to catch up to the other truck driver because his engine is governed. And it also will improve traffic, because the flow of traffic, because they can only go a certain speed. It would also improve the traffic.
Right.
And save lives.
Right.
So I'm asking everybody that's listening to the show, please contact Washington and let them know that we should pass the law to make it the law for the truck drivers and bus drivers to govern their engines. They should have no business going more than 65 miles an hour. Another thing I want to mention is that I've seen many times bus drivers, they're taking passengers maybe to Atlantic City, for example,
right,
and those buses are fully loaded, and they lose control, and they're putting so many people's lives in danger. It could be elderly people, young people, teenagers,
right,
and they shouldn't have that right. A lot of bus drivers are going way too fast, and they're not being responsible with the poor people that are on there. You know, these people are expected to get there safe, and they can't. And they're being jeopardized with these bus drivers that are going too fast. And a lot of people just totally put their trust in them.
Right.
And that's somebody's loved one, you know. Mm-hmm. So this is why I want to address the issue that we need to contact Washington and tell them to pass the law to govern the bus and the truck driver's engine at 65 miles an hour, because they're just carrying too much weight on the highways.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. I'd like to see that law passed. There'd be a lot less casualties. The roads would be safer, and people who ride bikes like myself, I would feel a lot safer. Many times I would ride past one of those gas station trucks. They fill up the gas station
rest areas.
Oil
rest areas.
Yeah.
On the highways.
Yeah, and I'm so apprehensive that getting close to on not necessarily the highways,
or service areas they call them also.
Yeah, but basically when I'm riding down the streets, I'm always apprehensive about getting close to those trucks. Are
you talking about the highways or the streets?
The streets.
Oh, okay.
When I'm riding my bike.
All right.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people feel unsafe, right? Look at the accidents. So many people die riding their bike. You know, get hit by a truck or a bus. So I'm looking forward to a better way in the future, because we all share the road, and being courteous, and
we're supposed to, but not everybody does.
Not everybody does. Some people feel like they own the road, and many times, when I been driving with family members throughout the years, there'd be a guy speeding, and we'd say, "Oh, look, he's speeding to the red light," and it's just unnecessary to speed and drive recklessly.
That's true, and like I said, the reason I'm bringing up these issues is to remind you listeners that we have to stick together, and we have to tell Washington to pass the laws to govern the engines from the buses and the truckers that are driving in the interstate highways, and they have no business going more than 65 miles an hour. We have to make it the law. Now, you got some companies out there that do govern the engines of the truckers, but how do you monitor that? How do you know that these engines are governed? You don't know. We don't have enough cops out there to monitor that. But the idea that I have is that if a cop sees a bus or a truck going faster than 65 miles an hour, then they know that those engines are not governed, and they cannot use the excuse if they get pulled over. If a bus driver or a truck driver gets pulled over by a cop, and the cop says you were going faster than 65 miles an hour, they can easily say, "Well, I was going down the hill." Well, if you were going down the hill and you know that you're not supposed to be going faster than 65, you should have enough common sense to hit the brakes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's an excuse they can use, because how does in the world does an officer know that engine is governed if the bus driver or truck driver says, "Well, I'm sorry, I didn't look at the speed, I was going down the hill"?
Right.
They need to enforce it and say, "You still were going faster than 65 miles an hour," and give them a ticket and say, your truck or bus is going to be inspected, and we want to make sure you got 24 hours to take that inspection, and they're going to inspect it by a special place to see if that engine was governed or not, and they'll be able to tell if that engine was governed at 65. Because they can easily say they were going down a hill. Because it's true, if they're going down a hill, they will go faster than 65.
Right.
So the reason I'm bringing up this topic is because we need to put a stop to the aggressive truck drivers and bus drivers that are out there.
Right.
Now, as far as the four-wheelers, because that's what we, truckers call them, they also have to be held accountable for the things that they do. And that would be another topics for another.
Yeah, I would think so.
Another time, yeah.
And also, you have a daughter who's didn't she just get her license?
Yeah, a
Where,
couple of months ago, yeah.
yeah, for the young people out there, I think most of them are safe drivers, and they drive within the speeding limit, and they want to do the right thing. I was a very cautious driver when I was younger, when I had just gotten my license. So I think there's a lot of the youth who are just learning how to drive. We have to look out for them as well, I believe.
You just brought an important point that I was thinking about earlier. There's a lot of new drivers out there, and a person that's being very aggressive with them can cost them a serious accident because they're going to panic. They just have learned how to drive.
Right.
And they need to make it more harder on road testers because, when you get a road test, it's about 15 minutes to road test, and you're not even going that fast, maybe 20 miles. How in the world does that instructor is going to know that new driver is ready for the highways if they don't make them go on the highways in the road tests? They need to change the laws, and we also need to contact Washington. And I will leave it in the description below who do you need to contact to pass these laws. It's sad because there's a lot of new drivers out there that will get, or elderly people that are still driving out there can panic, especially in the rain.
Right.
And you always got a lot of people, those aggressive people, who are angry at life for whatever reason, and they get in their car and they take their anger out on the vehicle, and they don't care who they hurt.
Right.
And they're jeopardizing other people's lives.
Sad.
And we, as a people, we need to put a stop to it.
Sad.
And tell Washington, pass the laws, enforce the laws for these people. Also, like I said, the road tests, they need to get a little more strict with that. They need to teach these instructors to go on the highway when they do a road test, because there's no way in the world can you tell that young student is ready for the highway. See, when I had my road test years ago, you have the instructor there, and it's for 45 minutes. It's not 15 minutes, 45 minutes. And they make me get on and off those highways. That's the way they could tell that I'm ready to drive that truck. Because giving someone a license to drive a truck sometimes can be worse than a loaded gun. Because you could get shot with a bullet in your leg and survive. But if you get hit by a heavy truck, there's no hope for you.
Right. Right. This is true. You've driven for many years.
Over 25 years as a trucker, and about 7 years as a New York City cab driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I value people's lives. That's why this issue is so important to me. I want to know that if that elderly person or someone's daughter or son is on the highways, I want them to feel safe. And like I said, we don't have enough cops out there to supervise all of that. And I said, the link where you could contact Washington will be in the link below. We need to tell Washington, please pass the law and make it a law for the trucks and buses for the engines to be governed at 65. A bus or a truck, bus drivers or truck drivers have no business going more than 65 miles an hour, because they are way too heavy and they could kill a lot of people if they lose control.
Right.
Because it's happened many times.
Right. So would you say that being that you drove on a truck for so long, would you say that in bad weather, like snow and rain, do you think people are safer, or they're just as some people are just as reckless driving a bus or a truck, even in the bad weather? Or would you say they drive safer?
That's a good question, because whenever it's raining or it's snowing, you got a couple of people that, instead of adjusting their speed to the road conditions, they act like they're super drivers.
Wow.
Super truckers or super drivers or super bus drivers, and they don't adjust their speed to the road condition.
How dangerous is that?
And they're jeopardizing the lives of innocent people.
Right.
And I'm not blaming all the truck drivers or bus drivers, because you do got a lot of bus drivers and truck drivers out there that are very professional, very safe, and they do validate people's lives. But you have enough truck drivers that I see every day when I'm on the highways, and bus drivers that do not give a rat's ass about people's lives. They don't, by the way they drive. And they need to be held accountable. And like I said, since the cops cannot be everywhere, by Washington passing the law that it will be passed the law to govern the engines of the bus drivers and truck drivers, they will not be able to tailgate anyone unless a person is going 55 miles an hour. When I'm in my car, I'm no longer a trucker. I'm a car. I'm a four-wheeler.
Right.
You know, so and I think they should put cameras inside the cars too when somebody's being tailgated. Now they're installing cameras on the buses, the yellow buses,
Right.
because a lot of people don't respect the stop signs. So now when a bus driver is picking up a child and has the stop sign, if anybody goes around that and passes it, now their picture are being taken. And I think the same thing, people should have cameras in their cars, so if somebody's tailgating them, that picture goes straight to the motor vehicle so they could get ticketed and they would need to stop. Like right now,
Penalized, yeah.
Like right now, you have the law is 25 miles an hour, and they have cameras everywhere.
That's in New York.
Right, in New York. If they go 10 miles over the speed limit, 25, the camera takes a picture of their license plate.
Right.
And the fine right now is $50. And I noticed, ever since they put those cameras up there, people are driving safer. They're driving slower. So, like I said, cops cannot be everywhere. Even cops have gotten killed when they pull over a truck or a bus or even a car, winds up hitting them and killing the poor officer.
Wow.
He wants to get home also.
Mm-hmm.
It's dangerous when an officer's pulling somebody over and you got all these fast vehicles passing them.
Right.
It's
very dangerous.
I mean, me personally, I think that also a car should not be able to drive more than 70 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. Washington needs to also pass the laws where they need to tell the manufacturers, these engines should not be able to go more than 70 miles an hour.
Right.
And in some states, they can go 75, 85 miles an hour. And I disagree with that, because if you have the speed limit at 75 miles, even at 75 miles an hour, even if you buy a new tire, that tire could be defective, and that car could get a blowout. People have
dangerous. No control.
And people should have no business going more than 70 miles an hour. They should pass the law, and all these new cars that are out there should only be allowed to be governed when they sell the new cars at 70 miles an hour. And even cars that haven't been governed, that Washington to pass the law to make the cars when they go next time for the inspection, the yearly inspection, make them govern those cars at 70 miles an hour.
Right.
Truckers at 65 and buses, and cars at 70. And it will improve traffic, because if people can only go a certain amount of speed, they will not be able to catch up to each other. Like I said earlier, if somebody left at 5 o'clock, if a bus driver left at 5 o'clock from point A and then the next trucker leaves for point A 15 minutes later, you won't be able to catch up to him. The problem is that you got drivers driving the speed limit, and then you got cars, truckers, and buses that are not driving the speed limit. You know, and they will, for buses and truckers who are listening to this, you may not like what I'm saying, but you know it's the truth. And again, I'm not blaming all the bus drivers and truck drivers and the cars, but there's enough people out there that are driving very reckless, and all it takes is one truck driver or bus driver to lose control and kill a whole bunch of people in one shot. Oh, this is the reason I'm making such a big issue out of it.
Terrible.
You know.
What about texting?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I've noticed on my bike people texting in their vehicle, and I'm like, my God, what are you doing? You're not supposed to text and drive? What do you say about people who text and drive on the highway?
That's another serious issue that needs to be addressed. And I thank you so much for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Washington, we also need to tell Washington to make it the law for these phone companies that you're making millions and billions of dollars. Right now, they leave it up to the person to click on an option where it won't work, the text won't work while they're driving.
Oh, wow.
But Washington needs to pass the law for these phone companies to already have it built in, where it shouldn't be a choice. Your phone should not work while it senses more. Your text should not work for you to text anyone while the phone senses that you're in motion.
In your car, or your truck, or the bus.
Yes.
Any moving vehicle. Yes,
it should have, the phone company should lock that in and make it mandatory. When the phone senses that you're in motion, that text will not work, and that's the only way to stop people.
Do they have that in the works? Is that
they have it?
Technology.
They already have it.
Working on that now.
It's just that they're leaving it to the person. The person could put it on or turn it off.
Individual choice.
Yeah, but you can't leave choices like that because too many people texting.
It should be mandatory for all phones on automatic.
Exactly.
Shutdown.
But why? Why? Because people are not behaving themselves. There's not a day that goes by where I don't see a trucker, a bus driver. I see cars, four-wheelers, constantly texting. And it only takes 1 second for you to get your eyes off the road, and then you look and you wind up hitting or killing someone.
Oh, gosh.
Like I said, we don't have enough cops out there to supervise that.
No.
So we have to hold these phone companies accountable and pass the law and say, we want you to do what you got to do, technically wise, that if the phone is in motion, it will not work. Not give the option to a person.
Right.
Because people don't always make the right choices. You know that.
I know that. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, because they're driving. They may get a like from who knows, Facebook or other social media.
Oh, yeah,
and they're so concerned who liked them, and it could cost them their life or somebody else's life, which I find really ridiculous.
Right.
So we're going to sum it up today, and I hope that the information that you heard today was helpful to you. And please, again, click on the link below and let Washington know to please pass the law to make the phone companies lock that option in. That when you're in motion, your phone will not work. Your text, you will not be able to text anyone. Mm-hmm. Not make it, give them their choice, because they're going to make the wrong choice, most people.
Right.
You know, and also to pass the law for the trucks and buses to be governed at 65. Buses and truckers have no business going faster than that because they're too heavy
Mm-hmm.
A lot of they're carrying a lot of weight, 50, 60, 70,000 pounds.
Wow.
Especially the truck drivers that carry garbage from one interstate to another.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but they're one of the worst.
Oh.
They are carrying 70,000 pounds of garbage, and they drive very recklessly, even when they're empty.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do it when they're heavy, but even though they do maybe down a hill, but when they're empty, their trailer is solid steel, so whatever they hit, they're going to destroy.
Right.
That's why cops pull over the guys that have a trailer full of garbage. Those guys drive very recklessly. They should make them drive. They should govern their engine at 55 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's because they are so heavy. You know, instead of 65, 55.
Right.
Because the more heavier you are, the easier it is for you to lose control.
Right.
You know, and that's it basically. And I hope that today's information about the issues that we addressed, me and Tom, I hope it was helpful to you. And
Yes.
for those who feel offended or those haters that don't like what we said, tough. Because I don't live my life based on what people say or think about me. I care about lives.
Right.
I care about
Safety.
safety. I want to know that that child that's in the car, or that old elderly person, or that new student driver, male or female, I want to know that they're going to be safe on the highways. And the only way they're going to be safe if Washington puts their foot down and makes it mandatory to govern the engines for buses and truckers at 65 miles an hour. And also to govern the cars too. Because cars have no business going more than 70 miles, and govern the cars, any car,
Yeah.
at 70 miles an hour.
All vehicles.
It would also save fuel. It would be good for the environment, pollution, and save lives. This is about saving lives. And that's it. And
It's also the quality of life, driving. It would be a lot
safer.
safer and a lot more happiness. You know, everybody wants to be happy on the road as well.
That's it. And amen. And this is about saving lives, you know. This is why I bring up this topic, because it's not addressed enough. You know, you have a lot of radio talk shows that they're just looking at what's popular to talk about. No, we need to talk about what's not popular.
Right. So,
Because people winding up, someone losing their loved one is not fair. You also got newborns in those cars.
babies.
And I want to know that when people could go on the highways and they don't have to feel threatened, you know.
Right, because a vehicle it could be a weapon, and a murderous weapon at that.
Exactly. And, you know, please don't forget to click on the link below and let Washington know that you are sick and tired of the road rage. That's another topic for next time. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Israel Ramos podcast show. And today my guest, Tom Pagano,
Thank you.
where I try to give you the best information and that will make a difference in this troubled world that we live in. I may not be able to change the world, but God willing, hopefully I will, with your help and your support, listeners, because without you there is no show, we will make a difference. God bless you, and God willing, I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.